What's up, everybody? It's Alex from Heavy New York, and on the phone, we got Scott of Ardra. Thank you so much for your time, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you, man. Thanks for giving me the time.
Yeah, of course. So, Unto Leviathan, I reviewed it last week. The record is absolutely awesome. Do you just want to talk about like how the making of this record was in terms of the songwriting, recording, mixing, all that fun stuff?
Okay, yeah, of course. So it was just a really long process, honestly. We've been writing these songs for like 6 years, off and on, and we finally like, hey, let's go in the studio. And we recorded one single with Cody because we knew a buddy who knew Cody because they were in the same studio, and we're like, all right, let's try it. So we just were working super hard to when we finally surfaced as a band to make a good impression. So we were just trying so many different things. So finally we found the right guy who wrote the right music, and recording took a year, and then it was just a long, arduous process, but it was super worth it.
Yeah, well, being that it was such a long process in the writing process and everything like that, did the songs like at all change? Like, or are we hearing like the first initial way that they were written?
Oh yeah, let's see here. Most of them went through changes. Like Malformed Almighty was like we wrote that like 6 years ago. That was like our first song written together.
Oh wow!
And we're like, let's make it. Yeah, it was an old song, and we're like, let's just make something super like verse chorus, like very like just a basic Black Dahlia like song, I guess, like just breakdowns and blast beats, and then the rest of the album, Trek for the Fallen, Dominion, all those bands, except for the first and last song, all those went through so many changes. Like it went, like I think Dominion was at its field stage for a little bit 6 years ago, and then we got rid of it and came back, and we were like, let's change it to like a kind of like a Chelsea Grin kind of song. We're like, let's just breakdowns that sound super slow and break, all that stuff. And then Carrying Dawn and Unto Leviathan, those were like two songs we wrote, and we're like, right before we went to the studio, we're like, we need an intro song, and we need a last, final song. So that's how it kind of went.
Mm-hmm. That's really interesting that you bring this up, because I did see like many different elements between like deathcore and slam and death metal, even some black metal. I mean, is it fair to say you guys were taking inspiration from multiple sources?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. A bunch of our band members are like, I would say like half of our band members don't even listen to like a lot of that death metal stuff, right? I mean, like Mitchell, for instance, the other guitarist, he listens to like Seosin and all those post-hardcore bands, but he loves playing guitar, so he kind of just joined us. So it's just interesting that but we all try to put like all our different influences in there, and it just comes out as this hodgepodge of like breakdowns, blast beats, but these glittery melodic parts like Misery Signals and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, that was another like thing that reminded me. Like, I thought Controller by Misery Signals, which is one of my favorite albums, like I saw a lot of reminiscence of that in there as well.
Definitely, I wouldn't say Controller because I was probably raised on Of Malice and the Magnum Heart. That was like the album of like my life, and I loved how they did a lot of their cool segues and transitions, and we kind of like live by that. We're like, we would need to make smooth transitions.
Yeah, but I think Controller is also one of the most underrated albums in that genre period. So
I agree. I thought it was cool how like Devin came back and helped produce that album, because he helped produce, I think, Of Malice, and then he came back to help with Controller. Controller was cool. It was very like larger in life, kind of like super thick atmospheres and stuff like that. I actually like that album. So yeah, it is a good album.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, Weight of the World, still jam it every day. But one thing I was curious about you being a guitarist, because I was really what caught my ear the most with this record, not to discredit everybody else in the band, but I really enjoyed the guitar work in the band. Do you have like a background in like theory, like I'm working off of a certain scale and a certain key or chord progression, or are you like self-taught and the work is rather improvised?
Yeah, I was self-taught. I mean, the first time I picked up a guitar was like when I was listening to Korn and stuff, and my dad was like, "Oh, screw baseball, you like music," and he threw me into a music class, and I was like, "Sick!" And then all I wanted to do in the class was learn Korn songs and Linkin Park songs. So the guy kicked me out after 2 weeks. So I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. And then my dad was like, screw it, I'll teach you Neil Young songs. So I learned a bunch of chords and stuff like that. And then from there, I went on, I think, Guitar Tab or whatever, and kept learning Arch Enemy songs and 6 Feet Under songs and Slipknot songs, and just kept going and going, you know. So I guess you could say I was self-taught, yeah.
Yeah, you had the same route in metal that I did. Started off with new metal,
nice.
and then you know, and then progressed, got promoted.
Yeah, it's interesting because in high school, I was meeting people who did the opposite. They were growing up listening to Origin, Opeth, and I was like, God, how do you interpret that music so young? So I guess we went in my opinion, the natural way, but there's no natural way. Everybody has their own way of listening to music and metal.
Yeah, but I think I speak for both of us when I say that if it wasn't for hybrid theory, we would not be into Tomb of the Mutilated. Am I wrong?
I guess so, yeah. It's sitting there going oh man, hybrid theory, and then 2 years later, Wretched Spawn is actually the best album ever.
Yeah, exactly. Moving on though, to the album, I thought that we kind of talked about it a little bit, but you mentioned you took inspiration from many different sources and stuff like that. And when I was just going from Dominion to Walk with Fire to This Thing Lives, I mean, just those 3 songs in general had many different vibes. Was there ever a preconceived idea before you laid down a certain note, or did you guys have to lay down a couple of beats and a couple of chords in order for a full song to sort of come into play?
So I guess from the basis of your question is that usually when we start writing music, it's me and my twin brother in the lab, and we're just laying it. We just kind of sit there. He asked me what do you got? I'm like, all right, and I'll play some I don't know, Pestilence influenced riff or something, and or a Morbid Angel riff. To Walk with Fire has this we go well, what? Sometimes me and my brother will when we write music, we're well, what kind of band do you want to sound like for this song? And I'm like, Aborted. Let's try Aborted. And I'm like, all right, and we'll write a riff. I'll write something really quick. He'll come up with the drum beat, but then his drum beat's way better than my riff that I originally wrote. So then I have to adapt to it. And then Mitchell and Tim come in, the other guitarist and the bass player. They come in and then layer in the rhythms and stuff like that. And then Kenny writes some fucking sick lyrics on top of the music after that.
Okay.
So it's just it's kind of a process. But me and my brother seem to be the musicians to lay down the foundation.
Okay. Is there ever a time, since lyrics are always last, is there ever a time though where your vocalist could come in with maybe a concept and that could help maybe throw in some ideas on how you would play your instrument?
Dude, yeah. My brother loves doing that kind of stuff. He likes looking at the lyrics and we're gonna do a breakdown right here because there's 3 lines and we're gonna make it super expanded into this breakdown thing. So I'm all right, let's do it. So I think To Walk with Fire kind of happened that way, where we originally wrote the song and it was a meat and potatoes kind of death metal song, and then Kenny wrote the lyrics, and then after he wrote the lyrics, we were let's just kind of recycle all this and just kind of keep the beginning. And then my brother helped write the song from the lyrical point of view. So that's why it's such a diverse part. That dun 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 bap, bap, that whole part is very behind all the mix, so that the vocals are the more focal point there. So it was very written as a vocal song at that point.
That's very interesting. That is super interesting that, it seems like you can approach it from any different angle. And I imagine that has to keep the songwriting process unique. It almost seems like the making of every song was its own experience. It wasn't just kind of going through the motions with the making of each song, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, I guess that's how you kind of create these unique songs, definitely. I mean, each song, like you said, it has, I guess you could say it has its own kind of story.
Yeah. Definitely. And here comes the most difficult question of the interview. Are you ready?
Sure.
All right. How do you know when a song is done?
What do you mean, playing live, or when you're writing it?
When you're writing it.
Usually we'll if you just kind of feel it. So when me and my brother put these songs together, it's like a story. We kind of sit there and right when there's like 3 riffs involved, it's like, okay, we're gonna have to repeat something here, and then right after that, it starts to have like the chorusy part, if you will, that has it's like an apex, and we kind of then play off of that. And then since we have a like apex riff, if you will, we're like, okay, well, this is going to be the kind of message. How do we have a coda to that? How do we say things like, this is the end? So we come up, we usually do we'll probably repeat like the verse or something, like for 12 and Fire, or Carrying Dawn does the same thing too. Or we'll write like Track for the Fallen has like a completely different riff. It's just kind of like like an epic ending to like a theatrical staged presence or something like that. So it kind of depends like on the I guess the cosmetics of the song, because it's like, oh, does the song have a lot of technical stuff, or the theatrics of the song? Does the song feel like it's practically a frickin' Transformers frickin' film score? So it all depends on the feeling of the song.
Okay, that was actually a very articulate answer. I normally stumble everybody with that question. I'm kind of mad right now.
I was stumbled for a second. I was like, damn, I have no idea.
Yeah, like you were just totally freestyling like that. You should drop bars in a rap battle one day.
Yeah, definitely should. Let's give that a try.
and then you could really take inspiration from nu metal.
There you go. Yeah, definitely. I wonder if nu metal bands have ever done like a improvised thing. That'd be kind of cool.
I wouldn't be surprised. Like do a rap battle with Fred Durst versus Mike Shinoda or something like that.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. I'd be like, oh damn, they actually could throw down some 16 bars real quick.
Yeah, there you go. And I have 2 more questions for you. That's cool.
Yeah.
When it comes to playing live, first of all, I really hope that you bring this album to New York City one day, and we'd love to have you here.
I think that was sick, yeah.
Yeah, but when it comes to playing live, is it almost a completely different energy, or almost even kind of like a completely different process playing your music live versus when you're tracking it, or even when you're practicing, or when you're in the studio? Or is there maybe kind of like a similar art that ties it all together?
So when we write the songs, they're very concrete, and it's like, oh, this has got to be the way it's got to go, and if you mess it up, you mess it up, but we got to do it again. It's got to be perfect. But then when we're playing live, it's a very liberating kind of just feeling. We're just kind of like up there, just having a good time. Like sometimes we'll play Unto Leviathan differently live. Like the original is like it ends, and it's like that kind of calling keeps happening at the end. But live, we play this freaking Norma Jean, super bassy thing, and we just all headbang, because it's like, oh, this would really get the crowd together. So, or we also bring a lot of energy live, so it's like, some riffs are missing when I'm jumping around, flying around like a freaking acrobat, and then, but when I play Track for the Fallen, it's different. That song, there's too many riffs on that song, so I can't do that. But yeah, there's a lot of riffs missing. We end stuff differently when we feel it. Nobody's in the crowd moving around. We kind of just play our songs boilerplate style, and just all right, let's do it. Even though me and Tim will just keep going, even though there's nobody in the crowd. So yeah, it's cool. But from playing it and recording, it's very solid. Playing it live, let's say we could improvise. Even solos, for instance, I'll improvise on solos too live.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. Do you almost have to practice the choreography on stage too, when you're jumping around like an acrobat, or do you almost have to kind of practice or work out or prepare for that in a way too?
We all kind of work out a little bit. I mean, I think Tim works out the most. He literally takes off his shirt at the end of every show. It's kind of it's kind of thing you have to expect now. And yeah, sometimes it's more like when we're playing in the studio and we're just jumping around. It just works, but we're just so close together that you don't know, and then all of a sudden you're on stage. There's so much, a little bit more room. So you do a bunch of goofy stuff, and you try it out. You're like, wow, that was really dumb, but whatever. And especially when you look at yourself live via the camera, and you're like, boy, I look like a freaking monkey person, like just weird and just up there looking stupid. And you change it up. So yeah.
There you go. And finally, before we go, first off, I want to thank you so much for your time. Is there just anything?
Hey, no, thank you.
Yeah, is there just anything else with Ardra that you would like to promote in terms of shows that aren't at the risk of getting canceled, or just anything you'd want to promote for after this age of quarantine?
We'll be playing shows. Yeah, but right now it's obviously a bad time. I mean, we were thinking about doing a live Facebook feed, but there's a lot of complications with that. But yeah, we're gonna be playing shows, and in the future, obviously, once this thing diminishes, and then we could do that. Maybe even tours in the future too.
Yeah, we'd love to have you in New York.
Yeah.
All right. But thank you so much, Scott. Everybody, Scott of Ardra, Unto Leviathan, out now. Pick it up while supplies last forever. We'll see you next time on Heavy New
All
York.
right.